she started off as a student, but she's most definitely gotten an upgrade ever since. We have with us today Tara Sutaria. This is Sanchita from Zoom TV. Hi Tara, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you for having
All
me.
right. So first things first, we'll talk about what we are here for.
Yes.
How do you like the Click and Brush perfume pen, and what do you think about fragrances in general? Are you the kind that probably is transported to some other place when it comes to fragrance?
Absolutely, 100%. The Click and Brush perfume, I actually fell in love with it. It was love at first sight for me and the Click and Brush perfume with Engage. With all of their scents and perfumes and deos, I have been a complete fan since I began my association with them about 3 years ago in this very room, actually. We've shot some commercials with Engage over the last few years, and if you watch those commercials, I think you will know how mad about them I am, and just very happy to be here to celebrate something very important to all of us. This is the Pocket Full of Stories book that I've loved reading. I've spent a lot of time, especially today, going through a lot of stories that Engage and the great Durjoy that have come together to collaborate on. We've got 400 stories in this book that I believe Engage and Durjoy have been collecting over the last year from entrants all over the country. So it's a wonderful book, and I really urge all of you to pick it up and read it.
Right. Moving on about the kind of reader that you are. Obviously, you love this book, like you really mentioned, and the kind of stories that they have, which are more human interest stories and revolving around romance, of course. So, what kind of a reader are you? And is there, any particular story that probably struck out and stayed with you after you read them?
From this book specifically, there are a couple of stories actually that really stayed with me. There's one story that I've been going back to read a couple of times. It's very short. All of the stories actually in this book are very short, but there's one in particular that I think Durjoy has written about his own relationship, I would assume, in this book, which talks about how the pandemic was hard, like it was for all of us. Probably for his relationship as well, and how despite all the odds he found love for the second time. He ends with that line, and I think that's very romantic and very sweet and resonates with so many of us through this very, very difficult time.
Right. Also about your association with Engage, you clearly are, pretty much in awe of them, and that's sweet. So how has that been for you, and how do you look forward to taking it ahead, for that matter?
Actually, very recently, we both decided, the brand and I, that we will be taking our relationship ahead. So it's become a serious relationship, if you know what I mean. And we've been associated for the last few years. We've done some amazing campaigns together, some wonderful launches, some fantastic TVCs, and I just really look forward to my next shoot with them, because I feel like we'll come up with something very romantic, sweet, simplistic, but something very effective in our communication.
Of course. Also, talking about your work and about your journey and everything that you've been doing, as someone who's been around for a while now, how would you say your definition of success has changed over all these years?
For me, success is. It sounds a bit crazy, but it's not very important. I feel like, especially in times like these, it's really more important to look inward rather than outward and think of success as an external thing. I don't think it's really beneficial to anybody's mental health to think about how successful they are, and I have learned this simply by being in this industry and just observing so many of my friends and so many colleagues around me. But success is, I think, with the amount of conversation around mental health nowadays, I think it's very important to realize that success is a very individualistic feeling. It's a very individualistic thing. And if you're happy, if you're secure with yourself, despite having the insecurities that all of us do, and that's okay, then I think that's true success.
All right. Also, you've had a fair share of releases now. You have releases coming up ahead. How has that changed for you, in the sense that you still get nervous when it's Friday and probably a Saturday when the numbers are about to come in, or when you step in on the sets, new sets for that matter? Yeah. So how has that changed or evolved for you over the years?
So before I was acting in the movies, I used to perform a lot in the theatre and on stage. It's a very different kind of nervous feeling when you go on stage, because you don't get to take a double take, you don't get to reshoot things when you mess up. So the kind of nerves that I used to feel before I was a film actress were very different, and it's a little less nerve-wracking for me, because I feel like you can always do another take. Fortunately, there have not been many of those, but It is nervous. You do feel nervous before you start something new. You want it to go fantastically, and obviously there is a slight sense of pressure when the film releases. You hope it does well, but I'm someone who hasn't necessarily thought of commercials with regard to any film that I've done, and touch wood, so far it's worked out pretty well for me.
Clearly so. Also, as someone who is a public figure, it always means dealing with both good and bad responses, not something in particular, but in general. What is the kind of approach you have to both the things, like good and the bad? Are you someone, who takes time to deal with things, or are you someone more spontaneous or stuff like that?
I think as a person, I'm just generally pretty over introspective, and I'm an overthinker by nature. But over the years, I've learned that it's better to just laugh at yourself and find humility in the things that people throw at you, because if you take everything seriously, it's going to just be a mess.
All right, you have a release coming up very soon, which is probably going to be special for you because you also sing with this movie.
Yes.
How excited, nervous? What are the kind of feelings that you've been going through about that?
Very, very terribly excited. This has been a long time coming for me. The music is extremely, extremely close to my heart, and more than anything else, I just hope that that connects with the people. But knowing the kind of films and music that Mohit Suri makes, I know that it will, and fingers crossed. And we've put in tons of love into the music and the story, so I hope that people love it as well.
Right. Like you mentioned, given the kind of work that Mohit sir does, it's bound to be what it is bound to be. But at the same time, the equivalent, the movie that first came out, has been a success. The songs have been an absolute success.
Yeah.
Does that kind of put you in a pressure spot or a tight spot? And how about that for you?
I've been in a couple of sequels already. There's one way to look at it, and that's with pressure, and then there's another one that you can add even more value to an existing project that people adore and love so much. I think we're all aware, all of us in the cast are fully aware of the love that the first film got, and I think we're just trying to add to the value of the film by bringing in so many new elements, and I promise you, it's not at all what you're expecting.
Sounds interesting already. Also, as an actor, what would you say is that one thing, or probably a couple of things that drive your journey, and that probably drive you as a person or as an actor, both?
I've been born and brought up in a very creative household. So for me, I think the end goal has and will always be to just be around the crazy people that I've always been around, the creative folks, the people who eat, sleep, and breathe art and movies and songs and music and dance and things like that. So for me, that's just always been the goal. I want to surround myself with those people because I resonate with them, and to me, that's all that really matters.
Also, like you said, you are surrounded by people. Obviously, there are a bunch of people in the industry who've been doing really good for themselves. If I have to ask you, among your contemporaries, who do you think is someone you believe that is doing really great work, and probably you would like to have a journey for yourself like that, or similar, or something like that?
I mean, I think, to be honest with you, till very recently, a lot of people, women specifically, for some reason, were always asked in interviews about, everyone was being pitted against each other. I think we're finally at a time and age and stage in the movies where that's not really happening very much, because we finally have stopped, or we're trying to stop putting women and people in general in boxes. I feel like every young actor or actress today, no matter who has launched them or where they've come from, they have their own space, they have their own box. So I don't feel like there's any specific actress, to be very honest with you, or actor who is, only that person is successful. I think everybody is doing the kind of films that they want to do, that they choose to do, and everyone's being offered a very interesting array of projects. So I think everybody that I know and that's close to me in the industry seems to be very happy and doing things, including myself, that appeal to us.
Right. Last question from me. What does Tara's wish list look like? Could be personal, could be professional, or both again.
Professionally, I have a couple of about 3 projects coming up that are very close to my heart, and I feel very blessed that in such a short span of time I get to do what I'm getting to do, whether that's Villain 2 or whether that's the next few things that I'll be announcing, I think, within this month. But personally, more importantly than professionally, I think it's just really the right time to be thinking about, we've just come out of this pandemic. And that's given me a lot of time to think about what I truly want for myself, like all of us probably have. And I think that's just being happy here and here and focusing on that more than focusing on success or focusing on anything else, because all of that is transient.
All right, I think that was that from me. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks.
Thank you.